is not inflammatory. Meat is not fattening. Meat does not cause type 2 diabetes. Meat does not cause cancer. It does not cause diverticulitis. It does not cause kidney stones. It does not cause impotence. It does not cause low testosterone. Like, I could go on and on and on, dispelling all the myths that are out there. But if you come to a way of eating and you've got these built-in fears or apprehensions, like, oh, I don't know, I heard that meat, will cause your nose to fall off, then even though you're like, well, gosh, all these people are getting healthier, so I'm going to try this, but I'm afraid. So one of the main things I try to help men and women understand is that there's no credible research that in any way proves that meat does a single bad thing to your body or your physiology. And this includes people of all ages, including children. Nisha and I have 2 young children, and the first bite of solid food they took was meat. And the vast majority of the foods that they still eat at 9 months of age and 3.5 years old is meat each and every day. And I don't do that because I don't love my children. I do that because I love my children very much, and I want them to have the best chance of developing into beautiful, intelligent human beings who wind up being well-adjusted and very successful adults. That's my goal for them. And so by feeding them this ancestrally appropriate, low carbohydrate, nutrient dense, uninflammatory food, which is meat, I'm giving them the leg up, the best head start, the best chance at being successful both within their health, both physical and mental, and in every other aspect of their future life.
And can I just say that I met Beckett at KetoCon. So we were invited to Dr. Berry and Nisha's Airbnb. Beckett is I would say the most intelligent young man I have ever met, full of color, full of personality, full of energy, and he eats all meat. So what Dr. Berry's saying is absolutely correct. His kids are like amazing.
A carnivore diet is the most uninflammatory diet on the planet. And so if you have chronic inflammation in your joints, in your skin, in your gut, or if you have a mental health diagnosis, very often that comes from chronic inappropriate inflammation. Now, if you sprain your ankle or if you cut your finger, you're going to have acute, appropriate inflammation happen immediately at that site. And many people will take an anti-inflammatory, ibuprofen, they'll put an ice pack on it, they'll try everything they can to fight that acute inflammation. That's actually the first step in the healing process. So if you fight that, you're actually slowing down the healing process. So I would recommend that you don't fight the inflammation from a twisted knee or from a sprained wrist. Don't fight that with cold packs, with an ice pack. Don't fight that with anti-inflammatories. That's your body's first step in the healing cascade. But if what you have is chronic, inappropriate inflammation in your joints, in your gut, in your skin, in your brain, then using a carnivore diet is, as the most uninflammatory diet on the planet, that's gonna be a game changer for you. And as so many people have said, God, I started carnivore and my knee arthritis, it doesn't hurt anymore. My gut issues, my irritable bowel, my Crohn's, whatever, literally I have no symptoms now. Or my psoriasis, my eczema, my keratosis pilaris, my acne is so much better on carnivore. How is that possible? It's possible because human beings and our ancestors have been eating meat for over 3.5 million years. It is just as ancestrally appropriate to eat meat as it is to breathe air or drink water. Literally, we've been doing all those things for over 3.5 million years. And so if anybody tells you that meat is acidic, that meat is inflammatory, that meat is dangerous, that would literally be like, the Harvard School of Public Health coming out with a new article saying, oh, you shouldn't drink water. You should just drink Coca-Cola and Pepsi because water, it's not safe to drink long-term. And we've got some observational research that shows an increased risk of fill in the blank if you drink water too regularly. We really think you should drink fruit juice and Coca-Cola because they're much more modern. They're made in a very clean, sanitary factory. and that we think that would be the better option for you. Everybody would be like, what the hell? What? That's stupid. I'm not doing that. Well, when somebody says that meat is inflammatory, meat makes your system acidic, meat causes cancer, meat causes diverticulitis, diabetes, fatty liver, any of those things, that is just as stupid as saying that drinking pure clean water is bad for you, or that breathing pure clean air is somehow bad for you. That is just as ignorant of a statement. And so realizing that meat is uninflammatory, that's a huge paradigm shift for most people. And then they get that, again, Rena, they get that immediate feedback from their body after a few days or a few weeks of eating carnivore. They're like, oh my God, fill in the blank is so much better now. How is that possible?
And the focus is the fatty red meat, right? Why is it
Yes.
that ruminant animals are the preference on a carnivore diet?
Well, ruminant animals that is the cleanest meat you can eat. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And a properly raised and properly treated ruminant animal is just absolutely a healthier choice. Now, I am not anti-chicken. I'm not anti-pork. I'm not anti-poultry. I'm not anti-rattlesnake. I think I think it's safe and healthy to eat any meat on the planet. If it creeps, crawls, runs, flies, slithers, eat it. I think it's totally fine. Now, if you're eating a poisonous snake, don't eat the venom glands. Of course, that would be dumb. But the flesh of that animal is absolutely fine for you to eat. But the difference with ruminant animals, and so this would be cows, this would be sheep, goats, camel, water buffalo, bison, reindeer. These are ruminants, and so they have a multi-chamber stomach, and they have billions, if not trillions, of bacteria. And so they have a multi-step process where they break down inedible plant matter. And in many cases, even if they're fed inappropriate things like grains, leftover Skittles, that literally happens to CAFO-fed animals. They're just given like expired candy and expired off-the-shelf products that are high in sugar. They can still take that, and even though it harms their health as an animal, they're able to turn that into delicious, nutritious, healthy, uninflammatory, fatty red meat. And I think it's very interesting that humans, when we contain animals and we feed them these inappropriate diets to make them have marbling and to make them more fatty, what we're actually doing is we're echoing the megafauna that we used to have access to on planet Earth before 12 to 15,000 years ago. We had access to these animals that were naturally fatty. We didn't have to feed them an inappropriate species diet to fatten them up. They just ran around and we could chase them down. But we don't have that anymore. And so we have to mimic that. It's almost like our ancestral heritage. We just know you want the meat to be as fatty as possible because that's going to taste better. And in an ancestral setting, if something tastes better, that means it's better for you, right? Because our tongues are the products of millions of years of evolution. They're not going to mislead you in a natural setting. But in an artificial setting, like our modern food culture, your tongue can very readily mislead you because these are not ancestrally appropriate things that we have access to. And so I think that once people understand that, that makes it much easier to switch to carnivore, makes sense. It's like common sense at that point. You're like, well, hell, how did I not know this all along? And then it also makes it more sustainable because when you do hear the fear mongering new news article, oh God, just on CNN they said this, oh my God, on Fox News they just said this, there's a new article in Time Magazine or Newsweek or whatever, you're like, that's bullshit. That makes no sense whatsoever from an ancestral perspective. I'm not gonna let that get my heart rate up. I'm just gonna laugh at that. And indeed, that's what many people in our private group, they literally will post an article that was just published in Scientific American, and they'll be like, look at this stupid shit. Can you believe that there are people that still believe this? Like it's a joke now when they publish this stuff from the tough school of nutrition. Oh, really? Lucky Charms is healthier than a egg scrambled in butter. Really?
Beef is worse than I think, yeah, Lucky Charms or cereals, or like
Yep.
something ridiculous was crazy. I was
Yep.
just like, what? Yeah, it's just
Yep.
how is this even how is this even possible, and how do people believe it?
Yeah, it's very fascinating to watch this play out because I'm very certain that the plant-based movement, the plant-based meat, the Lucky Charms is better for you than ground beef or an egg scrambled in butter. That's idiotic. Okay, first of all, that makes no sense whatsoever evolutionarily. There's no research that even supports that. That's actually causation research, right? That's randomized control research. So this is going to die. It's going to go on for a while, but I think many conservative minded people for eons have said if something is ignorant and it makes no sense and it doesn't benefit anybody, then it's going to die. It may not die today, but it's going to die because things that can't go on won't go on. They will stop. And so this is all going to stop. They're going to try very hard. They're going to spend millions, if not billions of dollars promoting this because you once you understand that a plant-based diet is easy to scale up. You can take ground up grains or seeds or ground up plants and you can make anything out of them product wise. You can take grains and vegetable seed oils and a little bit of sugar and a little bit of salt, and you can make everything from a bagel to a pizza crust to a donut to a birthday cake to flan. You can make everything with it. It's shelf stable. You make a huge percentage profit markup. You can ship it all over the world, right? You don't have to worry about bacteria and rats and mice eating it because they don't consider it food. So they'll leave it alone. And so you get to make all this profit from this food like product, which is not a real food. It's a starvation food. But if what you're looking for is to optimize your health, you do that by optimizing your diet, and you don't eat starvation foods to optimize your health. You eat optimization foods, and that's what a carnivore diet is.
So I was curious to know. So I posted on my Twitter, what would happen to the world if the world went carnivore?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you
Is that
just
a question,
imagine?
Sabrina? Is
Yeah,
that a
well, that's a
question?
question. That's a like I was just curious, like it popped in my mind because I speak to my partner about this all the time, like why people don't understand the premise of a carnivore diet. How can they think that red meat is so bad? How can they think that I'm eating butter? Oh my God, what are you doing? It's like, well, this is natural. What are you eating? And it's that the idea of, even for you, I'll ask you the question, what would happen if the world went carnivore?
Yeah. So within just a few days, there would be a food shortage if a carnivore diet were to be. Let's just say there was an alien species came and they just took over the world and said, "You will eat the following things. That's it, and otherwise we'll vaporize you instantly." We don't. We're not producing enough meat and eggs around the world because it's been declared very unsexy to eat meat. It's very unhealthy to eat meat, and so meat production and egg production has actually been declining. And if the plant based people had their way, it would decline even further. But as soon as we were able to scale back up, and we had everybody in the United States and the UK and EU and Australia and Turkey, we had everybody had some quail in the garage for eggs and meat. They had some chickens in the backyard for eggs and meat. They had, if they have a few acres of property, they had a few sheep grazing, or if they have enough property, they have some cattle grazing. Once we scaled that back up so that everybody had animals to some level in their environment, what you would notice is that the rate of type 2 diabetes would plummet. Okay. It would, within 3 to 12 months, there would be virtually no one left with type 2 diabetes. It just wouldn't exist anymore. The people with type 1 diabetes would be using 80 to 90% less insulin, and they would also have a normal hemoglobin A1C, right? People with hypertension would notice that they would, within a few months, they'd be able to come off all of their medication. Their blood pressure would be normal, or a very few people might be left with just a low dose of one blood pressure medication to keep their blood pressure technically normal. People with fatty liver, within 1 to 6 months, there would be nobody with fatty liver disease unless they were still drinking alcohol. It would be gone. The non-alcoholic fatty liver would just be gone, right? People with psoriasis would notice that they don't need nearly as much medication anymore. Their psoriasis is either completely gone or they've got one little spot somewhere that doesn't really bother them at all. People with eczema, it would just be gone. Within 1 to 6 months, they would have no eczema whatsoever. This also goes for childhood eczema as well, because we'd be feeding our children a carnivore diet as well. Now, what would that do? So there would be multiple billion-dollar corporations whose main products are based on grains and sugar and vegetable seed oils. There would be millions of people unemployed. There would be billions of dollars of profit lost. Then let's talk about the big pharmaceutical houses. The only reason that they're able to make the billions of dollars that they're able to make is because people have chronic metabolic conditions, chronic inflammatory conditions. All of those conditions are going to get drastically better or go completely away. So now you're talking about billions of dollars and millions of jobs lost from the big pharma sector. Yes, absolutely. Now let's talk about medicine. How many endocrinologists are there in the world today? These are people who specialized in basically type 2 diabetes and type 1 diabetes. That's the bulk of their practice. Instead of let's say a city like Nashville or Tennessee or Austin, Texas, where there may be 40 or 50 endocrinologists, you're going to need one endocrinologist in that city now. When it comes to orthopedic surgeons, and I think Sean Baker would verify this, you're going to need 1 or 2 orthopedic surgeons in towns, because you're not going to be doing knee replacements and hip replacements and shoulder replacements and thumb joint replacements, because all those chronic inflammatory conditions are going to improve. They may still have damage on an x-ray you can see, but they don't have pain anymore or disabilities. And they're like, I don't need surgery. The only thing you'll need an orthopedic surgeon for is if somebody gets hit by a bus or falls off a roof, right, or gets in a fight and gets a bone broken. You'll need them for that. You'll need them for some childhood orthopedic conditions, but that's it. So Austin, Texas, they'll have 1 or 2 orthopedic surgeons. Nashville, Tennessee, 1 or 2 orthopedic surgeons. What about family physicians? Because the vast majority of what a family physician or a generalist, a GP, does is colds and flus and sinus infection and bronchitis. All that stops happening. It becomes very, very rare for you to get sick with that thing. You used to get sick 6 times a year. Now you get it once a year, maybe, and it's so mild you don't even have to go to the doctor. Hypertension's been cut by 90%. Type 2 diabetes has been cut by 95%. Everything that a family doctor or GP used to be useful for, nobody has that anymore. And so they've went from having 5,000 patients down to having 50 or 100 patients who still need them for a specific disease that is actually genetic, or is actually there's no dietary cause for that. So they've went from 5,000 patient panel down to 100 patient panel. So they're going to have to find a part-time job. And then now with AI coming, I would highly predict every primary care healthcare provider out there, whether you're an MD, a DO, or a PA, or an NP, you probably need to be going back to school. Because as carnivore becomes more popular and as AI becomes more ubiquitous, you, my friend, are going to be looking for work is what's going to happen. If you're a GP or a primary care healthcare provider, you probably need to go back to school to be something else. And don't go back to school to be something else that AI is also good at. That would be dumb. So that's coming. But yeah, if everybody went carnivore, it would cause just the destruction of a huge percentage of the billion-dollar corporations, but it would also spur local economies all across the world. You're going to have farmers markets and ranchers markets all over the world. And so up in Russia, you're going to have fatty reindeer meat that everybody has access to. In Australia, you're going to have fatty kangaroo meat that everybody has access to. They're not ruminants, but I still think that they're much better than eating Doritos, right? And so and no matter where you're at in the world, whatever species of megafauna is indigenous still to that, you're gonna have that. And so in Asia, you're gonna have water buffalo and all the other megafauna that are still there. Everybody's going to be raising them, or at least hunting them and encouraging their natural habitat to increase in size so that they can reproduce and have bigger numbers. It's like it would be like a spontaneous explosion of local agriculture, local ranching, and then also reinforcing the natural habitat so that the whatever megafauna is indigenous to where you live, you're immediately going to become very interested, not sending $100 to the World Wildlife Fund. Or you're going to literally be out there in the woods planting some kind of bush that will grow some fruit or some leaves that your megafauna wants to eat and needs. You're going to be out there doing that because immediately you're very interested. And like in here in Tennessee, we have white-tailed deer and we have wild turkey. That's probably the only two bigger things that we have. And so you're going to be out there planting apple trees in the woods because you want to feed those deer. You don't want them to starve over the winter. You want there to be a huge deer population here so that people, either you can hunt them or other people can hunt them, and then you can trade for that meat. Can you imagine what that would do to the local economy, the power of just the average family to have an economic means of support and a way of supporting their local neighbors, saying, oh, you've got quail eggs. Okay, I'll trade you this for that, or I'll buy those from you. Oh, you've got chickens in the backyard. Oh my God, I want some pasture chicken eggs. Oh, you've got cattle. Oh my God, I want some, right? Oh, you've got lamb. Oh my God. Just literally that rippling through our society. I feel like that would do nothing bad through our society and would do thousands of things good for our society. And I hope that's the way we're headed. I feel like it is the way we're headed with the work that you're doing and others in the space.
And
And
you, and you.
I'm excited about the future.
I'm excited.
I'm excited about the future and what that's going to bring as we rejuvenate and basically regrow our local economies around a meat forward, a meat centric, a meat heavy, a carnivore diet. I couldn't be more excited.
Even the likes of Ray Dalio says changing world order. I feel like that is what's happening now with the external environment, with the economy, but almost with carnivore. Almost
Yes.
that could be the way if more people watching right now, they went carnivore, they started the right way. Don't go for the lean meats. Don't go for the expensive this. Keep it local. Help your farmers. Even you told me a story, or somebody told me a story about, farmers are going out of business. We all see this. And if we change it and if we do it from the ground up with people, like, it's just glorious what the outcome could be. And I know, and I can see that you're so passionate about it.
I am, because I do think it is the paradigm shift that is going to save the world. It's going to change the world. If we just sit by passively and continue to be consumers of what big food gives us and what big pharma gives us and what mainstream news media gives us, and we don't start to act at a local level, it's going to be bad. It's going to get really, really bad. And I think there are many people out there who are completely disillusioned with big medicine and big pharma and big food. This is all a game. They just want my wallet. They literally could not care less about my health. And especially the events of the last 3 years. I think people who were completely had drank the Kool-Aid, had just, they're just like, no, if the CDC says it, that's gospel. Don't even question it. I think there are millions of those people now going, what the hell? So if I can't trust that, important question here, what else can I not trust?
Everything.
Perhaps, right? And so that makes many people very uncomfortable. But I would opine that is the place that a mentally healthy, physically healthy Homo sapiens sapien, that should be your comfort zone, is where you question everything. Even if your mama tells you something's good to eat, you may smile and nod because that's your mama. Show some respect. But at the same time, you're going to be like, is it really? I need to think about that. I need to do an internet search. Let me think about that. Does Dr. Berry have a video about that? Right. And so we need to question everything. That is why we are the apex species on the planet, is because we have the ability to question everything. We have the ability to innovate anything. We can take any rock, any stick, any leaf, any hide, and we can use it to build something, to make something, or we can take something that somebody else has made and make it a little bit better, right? That's our superpower. This is our superpower, and it's time that so many people stop being mentally lazy. Remember what your birthright is as a human being. It's this big, beautiful brain between your ears, and if you're not using that, then you're absolutely part of the problem. You are not part of the solution.
And most people, unfortunately, don't use their brain. Not to say anything bad, but most people just, even Jordan Peterson was saying, why are people getting so dumb? And he was saying that it's not it's the carbohydrates or something. It's what you're eating. It's what we're eating that's making us so dumb, because people don't think. People don't have an opinion. People are brainwashed. And why are we brainwashed? Because everything that you're saying. So
absolutely, I could not agree more completely.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to get the next episode in 2 days.